everyone, Shauna here. Glad to have you guys back. I hope you all had a chance to watch my Get to Know Me video my last video, my Get to Know Me. Today I'm going to go ahead and go over some sort of subchorionic bleeding that I had throughout my pregnancy. I want to start with this video because I feel like there's not a lot of information out there for subchorionic bleeding during pregnancy. I know when I started bleeding, I freaked out. I thought for sure I was miscarrying. And I know a lot of women feel that way. And so I want to go ahead and get this video out there talking about subchorionic bleeding and the other things that bleeding could mean if you start bleeding during pregnancy. So for me, I found out I was pregnant on July 3rd. And I was only 4 weeks pregnant. I found out really early. And we were so excited, of course, but we were a little worried because we had had a miscarriage just a few months before in April. But we were excited, but we didn't tell anyone yet. About a week later, during week 5, I had some bleeding. It was pretty heavy. It's at night, and it was kind of like a period heaviness, like your heavy day of a period. And I got scared, and of course I thought I was miscarrying again. Since it happened at night, I waited until morning to call my doctor because it wasn't too heavy that I needed to go to the ER or anything. In the morning, though, when I woke up, it had pretty much stopped. There was just a little bit of spotting left, but not real bleeding anymore. I still called my doctor, still went into the office. They did an ultrasound at that point, and they couldn't exactly tell what was going on. Since I was so early, I was only at 5 weeks, all I could see was a gestational sac and a lot of blood in my uterus. So they couldn't tell if I was miscarrying or if it just wasn't far enough along to see something. And since it was the first time they had seen this pregnancy, they didn't know how to. The doctor at that time went ahead and took some blood to test my hormone levels, and she also gave me some progesterone that she wanted me to take for the next 48 hours, some just tablets that I took at night. And then I came back 48 hours later to have them check on the pregnancy again since they weren't sure what was going on. When I came back, so I went in on a Tuesday, I came back on a Thursday, and they did another ultrasound, and this time there was a yolk sac inside of the gestational sac, which means that the pregnancy was progressing. It means that there was stuff going on, the good route, not the bad route, which was very exciting for me. My doctor came in and she told me she was cautiously optimistic is the word she used, I remember, but she still didn't know what had caused the bleeding since it was so early into my pregnancy. So I was scared. She told me to take it easy, rest, no exercising, nothing like that, just taking it easy. I think the term is moderate bed rest, so basically I was able to still go to work since I work in a job where I sit all day, but I wasn't really doing much else. Going to work, coming home, laying down. At that point, I was just going with the flow, and then about a week later, during week 6, I had some more bleeding, which of course, again, freaked me out, thought I was miscarrying. I was scared, like most women are when you bleed during pregnancy. Again, though, it started at night, so I couldn't call my doctor right away. I did call the next morning, but by the next morning, it had slowed down again and stopped pretty much. I called them, talked to them. I already had an appointment scheduled for the following week during week 7. So they told me if I wanted to come in, I could, but they probably wouldn't be able to see any difference one way or the other. And so they suggested I wait. So I decided to go ahead and wait until week 7. At that point, during week 7, I went in for another ultrasound. By this time, this is my 3rd ultrasound, and I'm only 7 weeks along. Luckily for me, this time my husband was able to come with me, and we got to actually see the baby. The ultrasound technician had been with me through my previous miscarriage and through all these scary moments in this pregnancy so far, so she was really excited to tell me the good news. And we got to see the baby on the screen, my husband says it looks like a lizard. The one picture we have, I think it looks like a Ninja Turtle. If I can, I'll post it in here. But it's just little teeny tiny little baby that doesn't look like a baby yet. It just looks like a lima bean or something. But we were able to see the heart flickering, and they were able to see the heart flickering and get a heart rate, which was perfectly normal within the normal ranges. At that point, they were able to see the subchorionic bleed and notice that it was subchorionic bleeding that was happening, or subchorionic hemorrhage or subchorionic hematoma. At first they called mine a subchorionic hemorrhage, but later on they ended up calling it a subchorionic hematoma, so I don't know which one it is. I've started just referring to it as subchorionic bleeding to be easy. They were able to tell me at that point that that's what had been causing the bleeding. And so my doctor told me, you know, we're still going to take it easy. We're still going to wait a little bit longer before we get too excited, but everything is going good at this point. And I forgot to mention, from the week 5 appointment to the week 7 appointment, I had continued taking the progesterone because my doctor said there wasn't any harm in taking it, but they weren't sure if there was any goodness in taking it. But since I felt like it had helped me in those first 48 hours, I wanted to continue taking it. At this point though, during week 7, I stopped taking it at that point since the fetus had already started to form. So we went on with life. I was taking it easy, no lifting, no cleaning the house, no anything, which was really hard because at that point is when we moved into our brand new house, and I'm a control freak, and it was very hard not to lift boxes and put things away and get my house in order. But I was on moderate bed rest, so basically I'd go to work and I'd come home and lay down, and that's about it. So between weeks 7 and 9, everything went good, and there was no more bleeding. I had a couple little spots here and there, but it was nothing massive, and it was always brown, and so they told me not to worry about it. So I wasn't worried. I was excited, happy. Nothing was going on. Week 9 appointment came along. I got to see the baby again. It actually looked like a baby this time, which was awesome. I got to see the heartbeat flickering again. And they had said the bleeding had almost cleared up. There was hardly any traces of it left. A little itty spots, but not much, nothing to worry about. And so I was really excited. I thought we were past this bump. And my doctor told me I could resume normal activities, go back to exercising, just try to start slow and build my way up. So I was super excited. And so I think I went to the doctor on a Friday. Saturday and Sunday, both nights I just did little exercises. I think they were like 20-minute prenatal, like yoga type videos that I found. Nothing hardcore, nothing strenuous. It did get my heart rate up a little, but nothing too bad. And I did those Saturday and Sunday night. Sunday night, a couple hours after I'd done the video, I started bleeding again. And I was so mad. And it was just a little, it wasn't much. It was just spotting at first. And so I wasn't too worried. And at this point, and so I wasn't too worried. But I did stop working out. I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to take it easy for a little bit longer. So that was, at that point, that Sunday, I was 9 weeks and 6 days. A few more days went by, and then when I was exactly 10 weeks and 3 days, I started bleeding again. And at first it was just some spots. I was up doing laundry or cleaning the bathroom, I don't know, cleaning the house, doing something. And I noticed, I could feel that something was happening. And so I went and looked, and I was spotting a little bit of red blood. At that point, I went and put myself in bed and laid down, and it was already later in the evening, so I went ahead and laid down. I put a pad on so that I could try to sleep because we have white comforter. I didn't want to get blood everywhere. And about 10 to 15 minutes later, I woke up and I could just tell that there was blood everywhere. I ran into the bathroom and I was dripping blood all down my legs. It was more blood than I've ever seen in my life. Both of the other 2 times that I'd had bleeding, it was just like normal second day period type bleeding. It was heavy, but it wasn't too bad. This bleeding was scary. That's all I can say. It was coming out. It was so heavy. I don't even know how else to describe it. It was scary. And my doctors had told me before that if I was bleeding through more than a pad within an hour, to go to the ER. Since I went through a pad in about 10 minutes and it was still coming pretty heavily, we went ahead and headed to the ER, especially because we live about 30 minutes away from the emergency room, from the nearest hospital. On my way to the emergency room, I called the on-call doctor, and he was like, yes, if you're bleeding that much, go to the ER, I'll meet you there. So I get to the ER. At this point, since the bleeding was so much heavier than the times before, I was pretty sure I was miscarrying, but at the same time, when I had gone to the bathroom, I hadn't seen any of the gray pregnancy matter like they had told me would happen with a miscarriage. And so I was still a little optimistic. They took me back to the back, and the first thing they did was hook me up to some IVs, but then they went and took me to an ultrasound right away. Luckily for me, the ultrasound technician was there on call that night and was ready. She'd just done another ultrasound right before me, so she was ready. She, of course, as soon as we got in, she told me, I'm not allowed to tell you anything. I'm not allowed to show you the screen. I'll record the results, and then I'll send them to radiology, and a doctor will come down and tell you what's going on. Which stinks, not being able to look at the screen. Every other time I had an ultrasound, I'd been in my doctor's office, and so I'd been able to watch what was going on and immediately know what was happening. And so not being able to do that this time was really scary. And they wouldn't let my husband or my mom come back with me, who were both at the hospital with me that night. But she did. She went ahead and did the ultrasound, and she was like, so I have to tell you that nothing that I say here is final, but your baby has a heartbeat. And that was just a huge relief off my chest. And she also said the baby was wiggling around like crazy, which it has been every other ultrasound too. So that was just a huge relief right away. And I just started crying right there in front of her. But she was like, I'm still going to have to send it off, and they'll come and tell you what's going on. Lucky for me, the OBGYN that was on call had ended up getting there right about that time. So he actually came in while I was in the ultrasound and was able to look at the screen and be like, yes, it looks like it's more of that subchorionic bleeding that you've had previously. And so that was great. And so we left the ER that night. I was only there for a few hours. They ended up doing a pelvis exam and some blood tests and stuff too, just to be safe. And they sent me home again on bed rest. This time on actual bed rest until the bleeding had stopped. They didn't want me getting out of bed, basically, which was really hard. Luckily, it was a weekend. It was a Thursday night. So I called into work on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I stayed in bed. And then for Monday I was able to go back to work because the bleeding had pretty much stopped at that point. At that point, from about 10 weeks when that happened till right around 14 weeks, I had consistent spotting. It wasn't, some days it was there, some days it wasn't. It was usually always brown, so I wasn't too worried. And it was really light. It wasn't any more heavy bleeding at all. I had another doctor's appointment at 13 weeks, and they went ahead and gave me the all clear. Said everything was good, I could go back to normal activity. Of course, since they had said that once before, and it wasn't all good, I got scared, and I did not return to normal activity until about a week ago, which was at about 17 or 18 weeks. But I just wanted to get this story out there and let you guys know I am now almost 19 weeks pregnant, and the baby is great. Healthy. I am going in for my 20-week anatomy scan here in a couple weeks, which I'm so excited about. We're going to get to find out the gender, and of course they'll do all the measurements of the baby and make sure everything's going good. But every scan I've had before, even though there was that bleeding in my uterus that they could see, the baby was doing fine. The baby had a heartbeat and was growing right where it was supposed to be, right on track, right where when they thought my due date was. Every time the baby was doing great. It was just me that was bleeding, which is scary, but it didn't hurt the baby. At least my case, it didn't hurt the bleeding. I have been told that subchorionic bleeding does lead to a higher risk of miscarriage, but for me, it ended happily. And I want to thank in this video Jessie Smiles, and I'll link her actual video where she talked about her subchorionic bleeding down below, because I had watched that video probably 6 to 8 months before my experience, and if I hadn't have known about her experience, I never would have known about subchorionic bleeding, and I feel like it would have been a lot scarier. Because I had watched her experience and heard her story, it gave me a little bit more peace of mind and a little bit more reassurance. My doctors did tell me that this actually happens quite often to women, but knowing that it had happened to this other YouTuber and I watched her video and her story about it just helped give me peace of mind. So I wanted to put this video out there for you guys and for other moms going through stuff like this, that bleeding during pregnancy, although always scary, doesn't always mean it's ending. And just to keep your head up until you talk to your doctor and until you know for sure what is going on. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. My next video is going to be all about my first trimester, all my symptoms and how it went, and then I will get you guys all caught up to where I am now, almost 19 weeks today. Almost 19 weeks. I'm 18 weeks and 5 days today. But I will get you guys all caught up with this pregnancy very shortly and then take you along for the rest of the journey. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe below and click the like button and click the thumbs up button for me so you can see all my videos here to come. Bye, you guys.